Hello everyone, my name is Michael Tarallo. I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Qlik, as well as a Community Administrator and Advocate for the Qlik Sense community forums. I'd like to welcome all of you to our weekly Getting Started webinar, and thank you for spending this hour with me today to learn about our next generation data visualization platform known as Qlik Sense. If you need to get in touch with us or are interested in learning more, you can contact us on our website, or you can follow us on Twitter or friend us in the Qlik community. Now please note there is a Q&A panel. I encourage you to type your questions in during the presentation, and I will cover them towards the end. Those questions I do not get to, I will answer them in a follow-up post that I will put on the Qlik community. We want to hear from you, so please speak up. So let's get started with a short presentation. Finding the whole story that lives within your data. What exactly does that mean? I like to think of it this way. As you analyze data with Qlik Sense, you may start to reveal patterns, trends, and relationships you didn't know existed. Information that could dramatically affect decision-making would otherwise go unnoticed or remain hidden with other BI and data visualization tools. For example, like how an increase in temperature is affecting the timely deliveries of a specific product, or how sales are at risk from becoming collected due to an increase in traffic on a specific route. This is made possible by our patented Qlik Associative Indexing engine, which automatically associates every dimension in the data model and visually reveals how it is related, using the colors green, white, and shades of gray. You will see this in action later in the demonstration. With Qlik Sense, you have self-service data visualization that is truly made to be fast and easy. It's easy to understand, it's easy to use, it's easy to visualize, while helping you see the whole story that lives within your data and allows you to find that unexpected. As you will soon see, anyone can do this, reducing dependency on IT by empowering users of all types with the ability to discover, create, and share meaningful analysis using our smart capabilities, which include global smart search, smart data loading, smart visualizations, color intelligence, and data storytelling. These capabilities enable faster time to insight to anyone, anytime, anywhere, and on any device. Now, my own little personal experience, I've been in the BI industry for over 20 years. I've seen and used a variety of products out there, and some claim to be self-service, but ask yourself this question. Is self-service truly self-service if you still need to depend on others to get the data you need, or if the tool requires significant help or preparation? A perfect example is think of a metadata layer or semantic layer, or does the tool require you to take all of the data and put it in a neatly defined database view in order to use it? That's really not the definition of self-service, and keep that in mind as you watch what I do today. Now note, we have a fully featured Qlik Sense desktop product, which allows you to create apps that will not only allow you to analyze data locally on your desktop from multiple data sources, but it will also allow you to communicate your findings with others using our data storytelling capability. There is also a licensed version of Qlik Sense Enterprise that takes your local Qlik Sense experience to the next level by providing online creation and analysis capabilities along with collaboration, security, management, governance, and mobile readiness. And then in addition, which I'll be using today, we also have Qlik Sense Cloud, which comes in two editions, Basic and Plus. And this allows Qlik Sense users the ability to create and analyze and share their work with others online. And today you can upload file-based data to your own personal environment and create apps directly in Qlik Sense Cloud for free, pretty much allowing anyone to get started, including Mac users, quickly with Qlik Sense. If you want a bit more storage, larger app sizes, and the ability to share with more users, you can upgrade to Qlik Sense Cloud Plus for a low monthly fee. Now, I understand there are different types of audiences that attend these webinars, so I will attempt to strike a balance and cater to a bit of each. But please realize there are many informative materials available from our website and the Qlik community. So even though I might not cover something specific to your needs today, you may be able to find it in our comprehensive materials. I encourage you to join the Qlik community and visit our website, where I and a team of experts are available to help you along and make you familiar with the product. Okay, so we're going to start off with a very simple example, and then we're going to work our way up, and you're going to see some product usage and demonstration. Okay, so we're going to get started by opening up a web browser, and you can see here I'm at qlik.com. In the URL, I'm going to put in qlikcloud.com. Now, I'm already registered and logged in with the single sign-on authentication, so it'll bring me to what's called the Qlik Sense Cloud Hub. Now, whether you're in Qlik Sense Enterprise or Qlik Sense Desktop, we have the concept of a local centralized area where you maintain and manage your apps, and we call that the hub. Now, in this location on Qlik Sense Cloud, we have our personal cloud, which is also known as a stream, and this stream basically allows me to create my own apps that I only have access to. The shared cloud is a location where apps that I share will go, and then I invite additional users, up to 5 within the basic edition of cloud, where these people can now collaborate with me along with the apps that I've created. Then there's Qlik Sense Charts. This is where you publish freely available visualizations that are from your apps in the form of a URL, for example, that you could embed in a social media post or a website. A location for your data files. So in Qlik Sense Cloud, you can upload file data that you can then use to create your apps. If you want to access databases and other sources of data, then look into Qlik Sense Desktop. The Do More section here allows you to view sample apps as well as watch some video content to get started. And then you might have additional users. These are people who have shared their apps with me. So to get started quickly, I'm just going to go to my personal cloud. I'm going to create a new app. Now you'll notice that I can create an app immediately, or I can upload an app. For those using Qlik Sense Desktop, you have a file known as a QVF file, which is saved locally to your drive. You can actually upload those apps to Qlik Sense Cloud. So I'm just going to give this a name, and I'm going to call it Sales Analysis, Create App. And this will open up a location where I now add data. As you may be familiar with Qlik products, we access data from the source, wherever that is, and then we upload it into the app, which is then part of the in-memory indexed data model powered by the Qlik engine. So in this case here, I can add data a few ways. I can add data with the data wizards, or I can use the data load editor. Now, in my opinion, any real data visualization tool will give you the ability to augment and transform data as well using its scripting language or a powerful expression language, which we do have available inside the data load editor. But for this instance here, I'm just going to add data through the data wizard. If I click on the data wizard, I have the ability to access the section of data that I've uploaded. I also can access data through Qlik Data Market, which I'll talk about later. And then uniquely to Qlik Sense is I can attach the data files as part of the app. So if I export this app later, I could then import it into Qlik Sense Enterprise or utilize it in Qlik Sense Desktop along with the data file that is part of my app. So it gives an additional capability for those to be able to manage data and make changes to the apps that was not created by them, for example. So what I'm going to do here is just go to my data files, and I'm going to grab my smart orders, and I'm going to drop it right on top of the interface. You can see that will interpret the data. This is an Excel file that has typical rows and columns. I also have some IDs or key fields, and I also have my numerical components such as my metrics. What I'm going to do next is click Prepare Data. Now, preparing data allows me to then expand any date or time columns that I have inside my data and create decomposed date and time fields such as year, quarter, month, week, etc. We'll automatically do that if they exist. And if there's any mapping or geolocation data, we'll automatically create the necessary keys that we would use within our mapping components. And you'll see that in a minute. At this point here, I can now edit the table. I could rename. I can also add any calculated field. So let's say I want to add a calculated field. We want to give it the name of profit. And it's going to be a calculation or an expression of sales minus cost. So I can just select my sales field, type minus, and then select my cost. And now I have a new calculated field called profit. I click create, and now we can see my calculated field at the end of my list. Okay, so far pretty easy. Just added a simple data file, created a calculated field, and now I'm going to click Load Data. Now this will load the data into the app, and then I click Edit Sheet. And now I'm in my canvas where I can begin creating my visualizations. I have an accordion style menu that contains my charts, any extensions or plugins, at this time not supported in Qlik Sense Cloud, but is available in Qlik Sense Desktop or Qlik Sense Enterprise. My master items location, which is a centralized repository of reusable expressions and visualizations, as well as my field list. So simply, I'm going to grab a bar chart. I'm going to add a dimension. And at this time, I'm just going to select, let's say, year month. And the measure will be sales. And I'll type in sales, and I'll choose the aggregation of sum. And there's my first visualization. I want to change some of the sort order. Change the sorting from auto. You can say sort numerically, sort ascending. And now we have the appropriate sort order for the date field in the chart. So at that point, you can say I'm done. I've created my first visualization. Now I want to expand and elaborate on this data model and this app, and I want to add some more data. So what I'm going to do is go into what's called the Data Manager, and you can see from the navigation menu, I have an option for Data Manager. If I choose this icon here, it'll open it up into a new tab. Now the Data Manager brings you back to that same interface where you can view the tables as well as edit and add and delete. So in this case here, I'm going to add some more data. I'm going to go to Attach Files, and I'm going to go to my Explorer. And this time I'm going to choose my Smart Customer Data, which has customers and product information. Here I have multiple tables. I'm going to choose Customers and Products. And at this time, I'm just going to click Prepare Data. And you're going to see it's now showing me that there are some relationships, and it's giving me a notification that I might want to view these relationships by clicking on the associations. But what I want to do is I want to add one more data table, and that's going to contain my location information. Attach Files, and there is my location data. And you can see we have latitude and longitude and our city column. I click Prepare Data once again, and now you're going to see a notification saying that there are location points that are recognizable inside this file, in this case latitude and longitude, and it's created the appropriate key to be used with our point maps. Okay, so far I didn't have to touch any scripting. I didn't need to know what an inner join was, what an outer join was. I didn't have to do any complex data modeling. I also didn't have to define any tables as primary or secondary like you do with other data visualization tools. It just works. We just add it, and now we can associate this data and we can view the common associations automatically, or we can define our own. And the way we do that is by clicking on Associations. Now notice how I don't use the word join, because we are not a SQL query based tool. We don't depend on the backend relational database, if you will, or any of that structure. All we need to know is if the data columns have the same name, and if they don't, we have an algorithm that will automatically profile the data and make the best recommendation based off the data values. So for example, if I have a column called Customer ID and I have another column called Customer Number, if they contain the same profiling of that particular data value, it might actually use that as the proper relationships. Let me show you this. So each bubble that you see here is represented as the tables that we've loaded. And by selecting the bubble, it'll show you the data values in the columns. If you hold the button down, it actually will give you a recommendation based off of which table you can associate with, such as I'm selecting categories, and there are some possible relationships based off of the data values between orders and products, but there isn't any relationships based off of customers and locations. So I can manually link these together. So for example, I know between products and categories there's a column called category ID, and I can just link those together and I can actually view that relationship. And as you see here, category ID and category ID both in products and categories. Now I can separate this if I want, and I could use a wizard to automatically create the relationships for me, and then I have a chance to view these relationships, such as category ID in products and categories, product ID in orders and products, customer number in customers, and customer ID inside the orders table. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. Because of that intelligent profiling algorithm, it actually determined that this is the appropriate column to associate on. And if we look and we scroll over, you can see that we do have a column called customer ID, but it contains values that are kind of like alphanumeric. And under normal circumstances, we would associate based off the same column name. Well, in this case, that intelligent algorithm said this is not the appropriate column, but this one is. Okay, and this is part of our new visual data preparation capability. Okay, some new features inside Qlik Sense 3.0 that help bring self-service to actually preparing data for your application. At this point here, I'll just click the other relationship so you can see city and city are both associated in customers and locations. And then finally, at any time, I can click on the relationship and I could always override that relationship, or I can create my own. And this is great if you want to create, for example, a compound or composite relationship with a combination of different field values. So I could always build this type of structure here and create my own association. Okay, I made some minor screen resolution changes here. Now we're done with this particular data preparation. We can now begin editing our visualizations and finish creating our app. So here we'll load data, and then we'll edit the sheet. And now we're back to our visualization where we can make some minor chart adjustments. In this case here, let's change our year, month to use the new category. And we'll replace that. And let's resize the chart and give it a name. Okay. Now on the right, you have this properties panel that allows you to make those chart adjustments. You have the ability to add more dimensions and measures if the chart supports multi-metrics and dimensions. You also have the ability to add what's called alternative dimensions and measures, and this basically allows an analyst the ability to cycle through additional metrics and dimensions that have been added to the chart. I'll give you an example here. Maybe I want the ability to look at this information by country as well as city. And I also want to give the analyst the ability to look at profit as well as cost. Okay, now you'll notice the chart doesn't reflect those changes yet until we go into a analyze mode. And when the analyst hovers over the chart, they can go into the visual exploration menu, and then they can choose what it is they want to look at. So here's cost and by country. And then you have the ability to change some sorting options, presentation, and colors and legend. So this will give the analyst the ability to make their own changes to the chart from the original design that the author intended. And then they can save these changes as their own or just discard them. And that makes more sense later on when you're publishing these out into what's using Qlik Sense Enterprise and making them available to others. Okay, let's go back. We have the ability to change sort order. I can add a reference line. In this case here, let's just call this target. We'll make it green, and we'll set the target value at 4 million. Go to appearance, presentation, make it horizontal, data values on the labels. And for colors and legend, turn off automatic coloring. And we can color by dimension, by measure. In this case, coloring by measure is kind of redundant because the size of the bar actually depicts the highest value. And then we could also do by expression. What's nice about by expression is you can also plot another metric and use color to indicate that particular metric. So I can use an aggregate value such as count product ID, and now the color, which is not a color code, it's going to be automatic. We uncheck that, and now the bar is colored by the number of products. So we can call this num products. And if we go into analyze mode, when we hover over it, you can see num products and the sales for the colors. And to show you that there is some slight variation, if I choose by measure, you can see women's wear changes to lighter color when it's by expression. Okay, The expression being a color code is also pretty cool because you can now have a little bit more finer control on how you want the coloring of the bars, for example. I could use just a color function, such as red, or I could use if then else logic or RGB values and dynamic expression to color the bars, even utilizing color mix functions to create my own gradients. Okay, and we'll just leave it like that for now. And then there's some legend settings and axis settings. And that's about it. I'm not going to focus too much on those because they're self-explanatory. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to go to my charts. I'm going to grab another object. I'm going to select the KPI object, and that will allow me to keep track performance of my metric, in this case sales. And there we go. So now we have another visualization. So take note of what I just did. I created one visualization and then I added another visualization on the same canvas. I didn't have to create them as separate pages or objects and then create another dashboard and include those later, like you would with another visualization tool. In this case here, you have faster time to insight, faster time to value, shorter development time by creating everything you need on one canvas. Now, another thing I want to point out is notice that we don't clutter the interface with selection objects like radio buttons, checkboxes, push buttons, and sliders because most of the interaction is actually within the chart object themselves. So allow me to demonstrate. If I go into Analyze mode, I can simply select a bar, or I can hold down my Control key and do single select, or I can select a range. Now if this was a scatter plot, I could also choose on a particular axis on the bottom or the top and kind of intersect the particular selection. I could also use lassoing capability to select objects if it was, let's say, points or bubbles on a scatter plot or map. The other thing you can take notice of is as I scan this range, you'll notice that my KPI object is updating. You don't have to manually wire these like you would with another data visualization tool. All of this is inherent with the Qlik's patented associative engine. So let me show you another differentiator here as well. If I go back into edit mode, I'm going to grab my field and let's grab our countries. And this is just going to create a simple list, selection list. And I want to grab my customers. Okay, I'm going to go back into analyze mode. I'm going to clear my selections. Now, with traditional BI and other data visualization tools, you have a top-down approach or a linear approach when it comes to selections. And then as you select, you're actually divorcing yourself from the rest of the data. With Qlik, the way you select, you still have perspective of the other data elements that are either related or not related. To give you an example, is if I select Germany, you see my visualizations have updated, but my list boxes are also now showing me a color scheme: green, white, and shades of gray. The green being what I'm looking at, the white showing me what is related to the green, in this case all the customers that are in Germany, the light gray showing me what else is possible, and the dark gray showing me what's not related. In other words, these are all the customers that are not in Germany. So you don't lose perspective when you perform your selections. Now this is just a very simple example, but you can start anywhere within your selection interface. Now, as I mentioned, you don't have to clutter your interface with this select list box scheme if you don't want to. We do have a global selections list which will show you all of the dimensions and their values, and this is where you can also gain more perspective. So for example, if I'm also interested in what products were sold or not sold, I would just search for product and now we can see our product name list. So a majority of products have been sold within Germany, but as I continue to scroll down, I can see there's one product, the Lacoste shirt, which was not sold, and that might prompt me to ask an additional question. Okay, so hence finding the unexpected with the power of green, white, and shades of gray, and we call this the associative experience. So keep that in mind as you're exploring and working with Qlik Sense, and then also comparing this to other tools that are out there. Okay, so we're going to clear these selections here. Click Edit. Let me delete. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to switch gears. We'll come back to this. We'll finish developing this app and visualizations and share some more cool features and capabilities. But I want to switch gears as in the life of an analyst, somebody who's not really chart authoring, but somebody who is exploring data. And I'm going to do that utilizing Qlik Sense Enterprise. So I have Qlik Sense Enterprise installed locally on my machine here, and you can see that I have this interface, and on the left I have what's called streams. And then once again, streams are where we organize and secure our analysis. In this case, I'm in the sales stream. Now I have a couple of apps here. This is a brand new installation of Qlik Sense 3.0, so I haven't really converted all of my objects over, but the one I want to focus on here is consumer sales. So let's go into the consumer sales app. Now within the consumer sales app, I have an interface where we call it the application view, and this will show you all of the components of the app. You have your base sheets, which are sheets, let's say, created by other authors that contain our visualizations that I'm going to work with. I have something called My Sheets, where I can actually look at the base sheets, create a duplicate of those sheets, and then make my modifications to it. I also have bookmarks, which are saved selection states, and then I also have data stories, which are narratives or a collection of my findings. So I'm going to kind of walk you through a little of this. So I click on the sales rep performance sheet, and then I have my gorgeous visualizations laid out for me where I can start interacting with. Okay, so let's say I'm not exactly sure where to start in analyzing this data. Now granted, I can start clicking around, but I have something in mind. I'm looking for low performers. So if you don't know where to start, we have our global smart search option, which will index all of the data values and then provide you with a recommendation based off of the relevancy of the keywords that you're typing in. Such as, I'm going to start typing in low, and I want you to watch what happens. A few things happen. With Qlik Sense 3.0, we've introduced our visual search capability, which will also show you all visualizations in the app related to your keyword search. So in this case here, the word low, not only does it exist in these particular fields, such as in lower in the address field, or low as in low fat with the basket product description, but the value low is also part of the values in some of these charts. So it's going to display those as well. Notice that it's already recommending there are 3 values that contain low: low performer, low fat, and lower. In this case here, I'm looking for low performer, so I'm going to select that. And you can see there's an actual field called sales rep performance with that value. That actually initiates a selection. Now, one other thing I want to point out with visual search is not only will we look at the data values to determine the actual visualizations, but we will actually look at the metadata of the chart, such as the title, the footer, the subtitle, as well as the chart type. To give you an example, if I want to see all pie charts in my app, I just type in pie and it'll show me all pie charts. If I want to type in scatter, there's all my scatter charts. So if I type in the word bar, it will also show me bar charts, but then you can see there are other charts that it'll show that are not bars. And the reason for that is because the word bar, as you can see, is part of candy bar, which is a data value. So just keep that in mind as you start to explore data utilizing the global smart search and visual search capability. Now by selecting low performer, that actually initiated a selection. So now I'm looking at all low performers. Well, let's look at these bottom 3, and you can see just by selecting with my mouse and dragging, I have now selected these 3 individuals. And then by looking at the scatter plot, we uncover a particular area of interest here, showing these high margin, low selling particular products. Well, I want to take a snapshot of this because I want to discuss this with my team a little bit later. So I can click on the snapshot button, and that'll put this into a repository. And we can put a little note here: low selling products, high margin. And what that will do is that will add this to a repository that I can then use later on within my data storytelling. I can also go into a larger mode. I can highlight and select a particular area of interest. I could zoom in, and you can see more information is revealed depending on the zoom level. And then you could also, as I pan, you can see the axis will show me or give me indicators that there's more data available. And this is a great way of understanding, depending on the screen resolution or device size, if there's more information available to be explored by looking at these little dots on the axis areas. Okay, so we'll just clear that out and go back to our regular view. Okay, let's take a look at another capability, and what I'm going to do is page navigate. And as I page navigate over, you can see that all of my selections are also maintained. So we're still looking at those 3 sales reps and still looking at those low performers, but now with respect to this particular geographical map, as well as products and this particular budget area. So something else we've uncovered here. Now notice that those particular reps are also not selling within the Northeast. So there might be something else to learn about those other low performing reps that we are not looking at. So if I go to the selection bar and choose those particular reps, you can see the ones we are looking at are highlighted in green. The ones we're not looking at, which are related to low performers, are highlighted in light gray. Well, I can click on Select Alternative and confirm the selection, and you can see that those low performing reps are selling well in the Northeast. So this is other areas where you can learn more about the powers of green, white, and shades of gray. And you can see the indicators in the selection bar as these green and gray bars across the top. So keep that in mind as well. I can also export this sheet as a PDF document. Or I can export the data from individual objects or export them as an image or to a PDF document as well. Okay, so we've made some findings during this analysis session. What I'd like to do is now assemble a narrative or a story to present those findings to my management team. And I can go into data storytelling and basically create a new story, as you see here, and take my snapshots that I've collected throughout my analysis and start to lay them out along with text and graphics. Now I already have one created, so I'm just going to jump to that one now. And you can see here is the bottom performing sales reps that we've mentioned earlier. Here's bottom performing reps and their impact on margin, showing those high margin, low selling products. And there's the one showing that there aren't any sales within the Northeast. I have a few more that I'll just quickly page through. But one of the things I would like to point out is that if you're challenged during your presentation and there's a need to answer additional questions, for example, here we're comparing all regions to the central region. Well, what about the northeastern region? Well, at any time you can right-click on your visualization and then go directly to that source of when that visualization was captured, and then you can answer those additional questions, such as here's the comparison for the Northeast, and then seamlessly return back to your presentation. Okay, so I hope that was helpful, kind of give you a little bit of a day in the life of an analyst who is starting to uncover and capture and then present. Okay, so what we're going to do next for the rest of the presentation is we're going to go back to Qlik Sense Cloud and we're going to finish creating our app. So let me grab a map and let's add our dimension. In this case, it'll be city. And those are the points located for all the cities within the world map. Now we want to put a measure on top of this, so I'm going to go to my fields list and search for sales and then place sales right on top and then aggregate that. And then we can make some adjustments to the map. Okay, let's grab a scatter plot. And let's add a dimension. Oh, you know what? The dimension that I want is not in here. I have to create that. Also, I need margin. Let me see. Oh, that's not in here either. All right, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to create those. So I'm going to go into my master items where I can create reusable expressions and measures. Now, these are reusable within the same app for multiple sheets. But where this really comes in handy is within Qlik Sense Enterprise is when you create this governed data dictionary of reusable expressions, dimensions and measures and visualizations that somebody else can use to create their own apps. Okay, keep that in mind. So for dimensions, let's create a dimension that's going to allow me to drill from a natural parent hierarchy, kind of like from country to city to customer, for example. So I'm going to choose drill down. And I'm going to choose country, then city, and then customer. And we'll call this customer drill, and I'll add that dimension. And then for measures, create a new measure. This will be sum of gross profit. And for those who are saying, well, you're typing in the expression, how do I know if those are valid? Well, any place that has that little FX or formula expression window will give you the ability to create a dynamic or calculated expression, and you do have an expression editor where you can choose the aggregation as well as see the particular fields, but we also color code them too for accuracy. So you can see if there's an error in the expression, it'll tell you that in the status area on the bottom. And then also the fields will turn different colors if they're not valid. So I'm going to do G, and you're going to see it's showing me functions, and there is a field there, GP. You could also use the color coding along with the IntelliSense and auto completion. So sum of GP divided by sum of sales. Click apply, and that will be margin percentage. Okay, you could also create another one such as just an aggregation of sum of sales, and we can just call that total sales. Okay, so you don't always have to choose the aggregation in the field when you're building the chart. You could actually create a predefined one as well. Okay, so let's click Add Dimension, select our customer drill, Add Measure, Margin, Add Other Measure, Total Sales. And there's our scatter plot. Let's change the number formatting to margin. Make that a percentage. And let's do the same thing for sales and make that money. Now, why don't you take a look at this particular scatter plot, and what do you notice? Well, let's go into Analyze mode. We have the United States. Well, the United States in this instance is considered an outlier because of its proximity to the other nominal points within this particular relationship between margin and sales. Now keep in mind we did create a drillable, or we called it a drill down dimension. So if I click the United States and click confirm, then we go into all the cities within the United States, okay, and then so forth. That's how you use the drill down dimension. So we can go back and we can focus in on the United States. Now the reason I'm pointing this out as an outlier is this is only like 18 or 19 points, so it's not that difficult to find. But what if you have hundreds or thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions or billions of points? How would you be able to summarize and quickly point out areas of interest? Under a traditional scatter plot, which let me open that up for you here. In a traditional scatter plot, information is hidden, information is overlapped, and it's very difficult to point out areas of interest because of the overlapping dots. Well, Qlik has come up with a solution to that, and I'll show you. And what I'm going to do is use the order ID to simulate a number of different orders. In this case, I have about 2,000 orders. So I'm going to go to my fields list, grab my order ID, and we're going to replace our customer drill. And you can see that the scatter plot will automatically convert itself and start using a color range with a gradient from light blue to dark blue, where the dark areas or the higher density or concentration of orders are pointed out. And you can see if I go into Analyze mode, by simply zooming into that area, I can immediately find those areas of interest by looking at these hotspots. Okay, and as I go in, 20% margin is falling into these particular orders, and as we continue to zoom in, we reveal more information, and then eventually you will see the additional scatter points that you can select. Okay, we call that smart data compression, and that is available within scatter plots. Okay, so another area I want to focus on is showing you the importance of adding external data to your internal data. And to simulate that, I'm going to use a simple scenario utilizing currency exchange rates. So let's say that the data has been entered in US dollars and I need to get an equivalent value for euros. Well, I could create a variable and I could look up the exchange rate and make the calculation and then create a KPI for that, for example. But then every time that exchange rate would change, I'd have to go in and manually update that. Well, in this case here, I don't have to do that. I can utilize external data from our data as a service called Qlik Data Market. And what we're going to do is go into our data manager. And I'm going to click Add Data. And then I'm going to click Qlik Data Market. Now this comes in various editions. We have what's called Essentials Free, which is available in Qlik Sense Cloud Basic and Qlik Sense Desktop. And then there's also the licensed version of Essentials, which is available in Qlik Sense Cloud Plus. And then also we have topical packages such as financial reports, stocks and indices, world currencies, and world weather. Now here's a quick analogy for you. If you're driving a car, do you look just at the dashboard? Now you have your indicators that are telling you your speed, you have your odometer, you have your fuel indicator, possibly your temperature for oil and battery, etc. But you're also looking out the windshield. If it rains, you know enough to slow down and to be extra careful. If there's a curve in the road, you follow that curve by turning the wheel. If the person in front of you steps on their brake lights, you stop or slow down. Okay, so you're not solely relying on the internal information from the dashboard, you're also using that external information, that feedback coming out through the windshield, so to speak. That's similar to what Qlik Data Market is. With Qlik Data Market, for example, if you're looking to expand your business and your growth, you might want to look at countries where they have their gross national income at a certain level. That way they have spending power or buying power, and you might want to expand your business in those particular territories. Or you might want to use demographics data to target a specific demographic for a particular product. Okay, so these are examples of where Qlik Data Market's external syndicated sources might come in handy. Now for this example, I'm just going to use the Essentials free package, and I'm going to select 3x3 currency exchange rates. And we have our base currency here, which in this case is going to be US dollar. And then the quote currency is going to be euro. And then for date and time, we're going to look at the most recent. Okay, for the sake of time here, I know that I have a column in my customer data called base currency. And I'm going to have a column come back from data market called base currency. So it's going to link and associate the data for currency exchange on that particular column. So what I'm going to do here is just click load data and finish and click close. I'm going to go back to my sales analysis, and now I'm going to go into my master items, measures, and we're going to create a new column for the euro sales. So that particular column is going to be sum of sales multiplied by, and you can see within our field we'll have our exchange rate. Click insert, click apply, and we'll call this euro sales and click create. And now what I can do is drop euro sales right on the existing KPI, and it'll be a complementary value as you see here. So our sum of sales here, we'll call that US sales, and we'll make that black, and our euro sales is in blue. And I can make some adjustments. Okay, so quickly I want to show you something we've also added within Qlik Sense 3.0, and it's the ability to style the header. And this is actually just an introduction to some of the frameworks that we're adding for theming. You'll notice if you expand the information pane, you can access the little gear here, and then you have the ability to set some sheet title styling as well as bidirectional support for right to left languages. In this example, let's say I'm just going to choose a solid green and then a white for a gradient, and then I have an image already part of my app that I've uploaded, and you can see I got a little Qlik logo there. And you could change the alignment and maybe even the font color, and I'll just call this my sales dashboard. Okay, that's been added within Qlik Sense 3.0 and gives you a little indication of some of the styling and progress that we've made going forward. Okay, and then just click this button here to collapse the information pane. Let's add one more chart type, and this is also new with Qlik Sense 3.0. Let me take my KPI and I'll just move it up a little bit higher. So with line charts, we added the ability to create what's called a continuous axis, and that will take your auto-expanded date field when you prepare the data, as I mentioned earlier, and allow you to look at a high-level year, then month, then day, and allow you to kind of drill into that utilizing your scroll mouse button. So for example, here I'm going to select my order date, And then the measure, we'll just use sales. And you can see I have 2013, 14, and 15. Okay, I have this area here where I can see the whole entire axis. If I use my scroll button on my mouse, I can continue to zoom in. I could also use these as selections. So for example, that's selecting 2013, 2014. If I hold down Control, I can do individual selections. And then I could also zoom into that particular point of time and clear that selection. And then you can see I went from years to months and to days. Okay, so that's something new within Qlik Sense 3.0. We call that time-aware charts. And this is only available within line charts at this time. So what we're going to do next is we're going to share this app. So we're going to go back to our Qlik Cloud. I'm going to take my sales analysis app, click Publish to Shared Cloud, and now it is available for those who are part of my shared cloud, such as this individual Joe Q, which I'm going to remove at this time, and then I'm going to reshare with that individual. Okay, and you just simply enter in an email address. That person will receive a notification, and then within that notification they'll be able to register and they'll be able to see the app that you just shared. Okay, so here we are on my iPad, and I'm going to sign in with the account that I shared with, and you can see a colleague has shared a Qlik Sense app with you. To open Qlik Sense Cloud and register, please click the link below. Now I'm already registered, so I'm just going to log in. And I'm logging in as Qlik Cloud user. Okay, and now you can see an icon for Michael Tarallo. This is the person who shared with Joe Q. And then you can see the sales analysis app I created a moment ago using Qlik Sense Cloud is now available. And this is the view that I'm using on a mobile device to kind of show you some of the responsive design and the interactive nature. Okay, and if I turn my iPad, everything will auto adjust, etc. Okay, and then you could interact with the data, perform your selections, etc. So I just wanted to give you a quick example of how that worked. Okay, so one of the last things I wanted to show you before I start taking questions is something new within Qlik Sense 3.0 called the Widget Editor, which is part of the Developer Hub. Now, the Dev Hub is available with Qlik Sense Enterprise and in Qlik Sense Desktop. If you select the Action menu and then go to Dev Hub, now some of these tools have already been part of Qlik Sense, such as Signal Configurator, the Extension Editor, the Mashup Editor, and the Engine API Explorer. This basically shows you how to move outside of the box of Qlik Sense and allows you to create mashups and integration and work with our APIs, so you can kind of go to the next level with Qlik Sense and embed content into your own apps. But something new with Qlik Sense 3.0 is the Widget Editor. And the Widget Editor allows you to create your own visualizations and user interface objects with nothing more than HTML and CSS, as well as our own libraries that we include with the Qlik products. So I'm going to open an existing library. Now there are samples that come with the product, but right now I'm just going to open up an existing one called Mike Widget, and I'm going to create something from scratch just so you can see how it works. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is select a Qlik Sense app that I've been working on. In this case, the Sales Analysis 2016. All this does is it enables the interface to allow you to work with the particular data bindings that are part of this data model that's already been loaded. And then here you have your spot for HTML, and here you have your spot for CSS. So what I'm going to do is just type in very simple h1 tag hello world. Okay, and that's it. Maybe we'll put some inline styling in here, and I'll say size 30 px. Okay, make that font their size. Okay, so now we have hello world. Now let's add another styling component to this, and I'll put color red. And now it changed it to red. Well, I want to be able to change the properties of this color with a selection interface or settings interface like a chart would have. So I can edit the properties panel, and I'm going to put in a header, and I'm going to call it My Settings. And then under My Settings, I'm going to add a drop-down list that's going to allow me to select colors. Now I'm going to click on the gear, and we'll call this Colors, and we'll add, let's say, 3 options. One for red, one for blue, and one for black. And we'll call these colors respectively. Okay, and the default value will be black. And you can see the code is settings.property1. We'll leave that as is. I'll click Done. Okay, so now I've created a adjustment property for my visualization. So now all I have to do is bind that property to the area that I want to adjust. So in this case here, I'm going to remove the word red, click on Insert. I can choose from a variety of syntax objects that have already been created, part of the libraries. But in this case, I have my own under My Settings, and I'm going to click Insert with curly braces. And that's the binding syntax that will bind that property. Now watch what happens when I select from this list. Okay, it gives you an idea of how this is going to work with your own visualizations and your own data. Okay, now I have one here already created. Let me go to Open Library. I'll go to the Connections library, and I'll select Bar Chart. Now I have a data panel here. All I have to do is just add my data elements, such as the category name for dimension and the sales. And then you can see it's a very simple bar chart that was created utilizing this syntax for HTML and CSS. And the same concept goes through inserting the curly braces or the binding syntax. In this case here, you can see row.dimension with the index 0.qtext. That references the particular data values that we have added within this header here. And then when I'm done, I just go back to my app. Open up the sheet, go to my custom objects, and there's my hello world. And there's my bar chart. And now I have my custom visualization added as part of my app. Okay, so just a quick example to show you what is possible in there. It shows you're not locked in to what's inside the box, and you do have options to explore outside it. Okay, so I hope you found that fun. What we're going to do now is I am going to pause, and I'm going to go through the list of questions, and I might share my screen back and forth to answer those questions.